Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at number 10 on 8.4 notes. So, first of all, whenever you have a plus or a minus between two terms, you have to treat that like it's a single term. That plus or minus is like glue. You cannot separate those and cross stuff out. Whenever you are simplifying, it has to be the exact same thing for you to be able to cross it out. So for example, we have x plus y in parentheses on both the top and the bottom. Since it's on both top and bottom, we can go ahead and cross that out. Also, we have, if you'll notice, we have two x's on top and one x on bottom. So that means that x squared on top becomes an x to the first, and it cancels with the x on the bottom. The y on the top cancels with one of the y's on the bottom. And then you're going to reduce 2 over 6 to be 1 over 3. So when you rewrite that, if you look at everything on the top, you have got 1 x to the first, so that's just x, divided by 3 y to the first, so that's just going to be 3y, and that is your answer. All right, now let's look at number 11. So again, you'll notice we have 4p minus 4q on top. Because of that minus sign, those are connected together. 3p minus 3p plus 3q on the bottom, so those are connected. And then on the top, p squared minus q squared. The only way you are able to reduce any of this is if you factor stuff out and everything is being multiplied. So what we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and rewrite the top left fraction as 4 parentheses p minus q. So whenever you have two terms, you either are going to factor out a common term, or it might be like the top part of the second fraction where it is a difference of squares, and you can write that as p plus q and p minus q. And then on the bottom of that second fraction, we're going to factor out a 3, and then we're going to be left with p plus q. So again, we're looking at at any fractions that are identical. They have to be the exact same. So on the top, we have a p minus q here, and that simplifies with one of the p minus q's on the bottom. Over on the right, we have a p plus q and a p plus q. And then we have another p minus q there that will simplify with the second p minus q over here. So when we look at what we have left, we have 4 over 3, so my answer is 4/3. All right, let's jump over to number 13. We're going to skip number 12. Number 13, what we have to do with all of these is we have to factor. So they have an n squared, and it's got 3 terms, which means we have to have factoring. So it's not the other kind as in number 11. So the top left, when you look and see n squared plus 6n plus 5, that factors out to be n plus 5 times n plus 1. The bottom is n squared plus 2n minus 8. So remember, you're thinking what will multiply to give you a negative 8 and add to give you a positive 2, and that's going to be n plus 4 and n minus 2. So remember, you have 4 times 2 is 8, and then you need the 4 to be the positive so that when you add positive 4 and negative 2, it gives you a positive 2n. And then the second fraction, n squared minus 5n plus 6. So what multiplies to give you a positive 6, so they both have the same sign, and it adds to give you a negative 5. So that's going to be n minus 3 and n minus 2. And then divided by n squared plus 2n minus 15. What will multiply to give you a negative 15, so one's positive, one's negative, and will add to give you a positive 2, and you will get n plus 5 and n minus 3. Now look and see which factors are exactly the same, and those are the ones that you're going to be able to cancel. So we have an n plus 5 on the top left, and we have a similar n plus 5 on the bottom right, so those will cancel. We have an n plus 1, but nowhere on the bottom is there an n plus 1, so that stays where it is. And then n minus 3 and n minus 2 cancels out. So looking at what we have left, we have an n plus 1 on top, an n plus 4 on the bottom. So we're left with n plus 1 divided by n plus 4. Now remember, those two have parentheses around them. They are not identical. They have a plus sign, so they're attached. You cannot simplify it. So that is your answer. You leave it alone. Okay, let's jump down to number 15. Now, the important thing to remember about division is when you divide by a fraction, it is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So 5a over 3b divided by 30b over 9a is the same thing as 5a over 3b times 9a over 30b. So you change the divide sign to a multiply, and then you just flip the fraction, the second fraction. So now you can look and see what can be reduced. If you notice, the 5 on the top left can be reduced with the 30 on the bottom right. That reduces to 1 over 6. And then you have 9 and 3 that will reduce. That's 1 and 3. And you can go even further because you have a 3 over 6, so that will reduce to a 1 over a 2. So now look and see what you have left. You have 2 A's, 2 B's, and a 2, so that reduces to be A squared over 2B squared. Now, there's actually a second way to do this problem. Whenever you write it as a multiplication sign, it may make more sense to you to go ahead and multiply that out. So 5a times 9a, which is 45a squared, over 3b times 30b, which is 90b squared. And now you can just reduce that 45 over 90 to be 1 over 2. So you get the same answer in the end. It's just a different way to do it. It's just whichever way makes the most sense to you. Okay, so again, remember what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and change that divide sign to a multiply sign problem. So 4a over 3a minus 12 times 5a minus 20 over 16a squared. Remember, 3a minus 12, 5a minus 20 are attached. You cannot do anything to simplify until after you have factored out a common term. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead on the bottom of that first fraction. We're going to factor a 3 out because a 3 goes out of 12 and 3. So we're left with 3 times a minus 4. And then the top part of the right fraction, you can factor out a 5. So 5 times a minus 4 divided by 16a squared. So again, you can either just start reducing here, or if it makes more sense to you, go ahead, multiply 4a times 5 to get 20a. Remember, leave everything factored out. Don't re-multiply it out, or that undoes everything. And then the bottom is 3 times 16a squared, so 48a squared over a minus 4. And now at that point, you can start reducing. So the a minus 4s will cancel. A on top cancels with 1a on bottom. And then 20 over 48, think about what will go into both of those. It's going to be 4. So 20 changes to 5 and 48 changes to 12. And now look at what you've got left. You've got 5 on the top and you've got 12a on the bottom. So this is 5 divided by 12a. Now, I want you to go ahead and pause the video. I want you to try to do 17, 18, and 19 on your own. At the very least, go through and change them to multiply problems before you start the video up to see how I do it. All right, number 17. So the first fraction is actually already in factored form, so we don't need to do anything with it. The second fraction, what we're going to do on the top is we are going to factor out a y, and you are left with a plus b. The bottom, we're going to factor out an x, and you are left with a minus b. Excuse me. Now you can go ahead and you can start simplifying. So the a minus b's cancel, the a plus b's cancel. 1x on top cancels with the x on bottom. 1y on top cancels with 1y on bottom. And you are left with the answer of x divided by y. Now going to number 18, remember difference of squares is going to be one that's used a lot. So this is r plus 2 and r minus 2 on the top, and r plus 5 and r minus 5 on the bottom, times r minus 5 in parentheses over r minus 2 in parentheses. Remember, r minus 5 and r plus 2, you can't do anything with them until you find a grouping that is exactly the same. So looking at that, you have an r minus 5 on top and bottom, an r minus 2 on top and bottom, and you are left with r plus 2 divided by r plus 5, which you cannot simplify any further. You leave that alone. Okay, so top of the first fraction is already in a factored form. The bottom becomes x plus 4, x minus 4 times, and then x squared plus 7x plus 12, so you multiplies to give you 12 and adds to give you 7. So that's going to be x plus 3 and x plus 4 divided by x plus 3. And now you can go ahead and start reducing. You've got an x minus 4 on top and bottom, an x plus 3 on top and bottom, and an x plus 4 on top and bottom. Now you'll notice we have everything that canceled out. However, you are always left with a 1 on top and a 1 on bottom, so your answer when everything cancels is 1. All right, let's look at number 20. We have a squared minus 4 over 2a plus 6 divided by a squared plus 7a plus 10 over 4a plus 12. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to change that to a multiply problem. So we have a squared minus 4 over 2a plus 6 times 4a plus 12 divided by a squared plus 7a plus 10. So the top left factors into a plus 2 and a minus 2. The bottom, we're going to factor out a common term, which is 2, and we're left with a plus 3. The top right, we're going to factor out a common term of 4, so that's going to be 4 times a plus 3. And the bottom will factor into a plus 5 and a plus 2. All right, now we've got an a plus 2 on top and bottom. We've got an a plus 3 on top and bottom. And then we have 4 over 2, which will reduce to be 2 over 1. So looking at everything that we have left, we have an a minus 2, a 2, 1, and a plus 5. So this is 2 parentheses, a minus 2 divided by a plus 5. We want to go ahead and leave our answers, even when there's multiple things left, as factors. You don't need to multiply that back out. You can just leave it alone. All right, go ahead and do number 21 on your own, and then I will work it out. So go ahead and pause. Okay, so this might have confused you, but what you have to remember is that 2x plus 3 can be written as a fraction. It is always over 1 when you have something. So when you flip it, it's 1 divided by 2x plus 3. Factor out the top left, and by the way, if you'll notice, since you have a 2x plus 3 on the bottom right, it's not definite, but there's a really good chance that one of the factors of the top left is going to be 2x plus 3. So you can always check that and see if it works. And when you do, it is one of the factors. So we have 2x plus 3 times x minus 1 and 4x squared, and then 1 over 2x plus 3. So your 2x plus 3's will cancel, and you are left with the answer of x minus 1, which again is attached. You can't do anything with that unless there's a factor that's identical to it, divided by 4x squared, and that is your answer.